Absolutely. Let's look at Somerset, which you can see on the map there, and in particular, South Somerset. Just in case you're wondering, I've got this old book and it seems to have lots of legends and myths and folklore all around Britain, so I'm asking people to send in places that they'd like me to look into, and I'm also throwing in a bit of ancient Rome in there as well for the Roman Britain stuff. Anyway, so we're here in southern Somerset, and we're going to start at Buckland St Mary for a bit of warfare, because apparently it was here that it was the last place where red-clothed fairies were seen. And apparently they got pushed out during a war with the pixies, who beat them. And therefore, apparently, everything to the west of the River Parrett is known as Pixieland. It could catch on. I'm going to head east now to Hazelbury Plucknet. These are great names, by the way. And to a church, and actually an individual there, a saint, Saint Wulfric, who apparently resided at St Michael and All Angels Church there. And he lived in a cell. He was an anchorite, which is a sort of hermit, but he loved animals. And so the story goes that apparently one day he found that the squirrels were keeping their nuts in a wooden cup that he owned. So rather than to disturb that and annoy the squirrels, he carved himself another wooden cup. It's the kind of guy he was. I need to go back that way now to Blackdown Hills and an inn, which is always a good place to start. This is the Holman Clavel Inn. And clavel is an old word for a beam of wood which was suspended or would have gone across the fireplace. And apparently this is particularly relevant here because this is where Charlie would sit. Now, Charlie wasn't a person, he was a hearth spirit. And apparently he used to get up to all sorts of mischief in the inn. I don't know if that clavel is still there, and I certainly don't know if Charlie is. But if you do, let me know. Just before we get to the Romans, then to Yeovil, and you can see a witch there right next to the name Yeovil, and that's what we have. So we have a case of witchcraft in 1657, where a witch was convicted, should we say that? And witches, by the way, in Britain, I'm certainly sure in England, they were not burnt at the stake. They were, I don't know if I can say this word on this app, but they were, shall we say, suspended. That was the method with which they were dispatched. Anyway, in 1657, apparently, a young boy was giving an apple from an old woman. You know where this is going? Well, actually, you probably don't know where this is going because he took a bite out of it, rose in the air, and flew for 300 yards, according to a witness. So there we go, a case of witchcraft in Yeovil. And now to the Romans. Okay, this is the Roman stuff then. So I've got a Roman Britain map, which you may have seen. I've done videos on specific locations before, and if you want me to do those again, just stick them in the comments, because normally I do those, but I thought I added this in, and I will add these into the folklore and myth maps as well, just for a bit of fun. I've got a map, why not use it? Anyway, so we're looking at what would become southern Somerset here, and really we're looking at Lyndinis, which is Ilchester, and you can see a number of features there. So if you're not familiar with the map, that red square indicates some level of fortification. This was an auxiliary fort, so Roman auxiliary fort, which was Flavian, so we think AD 69 to 96, something like that. But this developed and evolved, and what we have there is a vicus or a vicus. And a vicus was essentially a sort of urban settlement that developed around a fort. These are quite common, and this is often sometimes where we have cities and towns. They originally had a Roman fort or a military presence there. And of course, then you'd have supporting services. People would go and move. They'd set up little tents, camps, and that grew and developed. You get the idea. So that's what we've got here at Ilchester. And you can also see that you've got some red lines there. Those are Roman roads. The one going northeast is actually part of the Fossway. Fossway was a substantial sort of, I wouldn't call it end of empire, but it was initial point at which Rome reached early on in the Claudian invasion, where it sort of used an entrenchment that was already dug or already been there, and the Romans took full advantage of that. And you can find, I think I've done a video on the Fossway. I could always do one. Anyway, so there we go. But there are a few other things you can see. So for example, you can see those little triangles indicate some sort of villa or substantial feature there. So it could be a number of different things. But what I'd like to draw your attention to is actually to go to the southwest, and you can see Ham Hill. It's just at the foot of the R there. Ham Hill's really interesting because it was actually quite a substantial site for the Durotriges, or Durotriges, again, apologies for my pronunciation. This was the local tribe that the Romans encountered and fought against. And they had one on the hill fort at Ham Hill, and this was pretty big. This was an L shape, and its circumference was something like 3 miles. This was big. And Rome would have taken it as part of their operations there, presumably under Legio to Augusta, which meant that it was probably quite a young Vespasian, or should we say, a younger Vespasian, the future emperor, overseeing what was going on there and overseeing the capture of it. Two final things before I finish. One, a temporary marching camp, which you can make out just above Taunton and to the west. And that's that red triangle with a line through it. And then we've got a limestone mine or quarry near Ham Hill. So you go back to the R in the centre of the map there, you can see it. It's that blue icon. And if you want me to do something in your area or an area that you might be interested in or live in, work in, grow up in, whatever, stick it in one of the comments to some of these videos and I'll put it on the list.